In the previous video, we looked at various deployment environments and strategies. And now in this video, we will look at the infrastructure which is required to host or deploy these applications, right? And this is known as hosting the application. And now these web applications are usually hosted or deployed onto server systems, right? And clients, they access the software service or the app from the server, right? And an important characteristic of such environments is that they should be available all the time, right? 24 hours a day throughout the year with no unplanned downtime, right? Especially for production environments, the web application will be used by actual users and which will hold real data, right? Hence, it is very important that these systems should be available at all times and user data should be stored securely. So in this video, we look at different options by which we can host our application. So what are these options? So you can either use bare metal servers to host your application or use infrastructure as a service provider or platform as a service providers. So let's look at each of these in detail. Now, bare metal server is, in this option, you actually purchase the server hardware which is required for the application, right? And you purchase this server hardware, you set up the operating system, the web server and the web application, right? And this server system is similar to a normal desktop system, right? It has a CPU, motherboard, RAM, and disk storage. All of this, of course, at a very high configuration. And there are other features which are specific to server software and systems. And unlike desktop computers, they take different forms and they are more compact. For example, you have rack servers, you have blade servers, right? They occupy lesser space such so that multiple servers can be arranged in a rack or a stack. And now one advantage of using your own server is that this option gives the highest performance, right? So this server is available exclusively to you, right? It's not shared by other applications or by other users, right? You have exclusive access and hence it gives the highest performance. However, what is the disadvantage? So one disadvantage is that this option is the most expensive upfront, right? Because you have to initially pay a lot to procure the server hardware, right? Usually servers cost around lakhs of rupees. And not only that, the lot of time and effort is spent initially in setting it up, right? You have to set up the hardware, the OS, the server and the application. And not only that, time and effort is spent and money is also spent in maintaining it, right? Let's say some part malfunctions or it has to be repaired, right? So you have to take care of ongoing maintenance as well. Another hosting option is to use an infrastructure as a service or an IaaS provider, right? So what does the IaaS provider do? So the IaaS provider provides a part of that infrastructure to you, right? So the IaaS procures the server hardware, right? It configures an operating system on that and it provides a part of this infrastructure to you for a particular fee, right? So for example, let's say the IaaS has a 8-core processor with 32 GB of RAM. And what it does is it slices this into 8 parts, right? And each of these parts are known as a virtual machine, right? And each VM contains 1 core and 4 GB of memory, right? And for you as a developer who wants to host their application, you have exclusive access to this VM with this 1 core and 4 GB of memory, right? And here you can set up your application, right? You can copy your relevant code, set up the web server and the database, and you need not worry about the underlying server hardware, maintaining it, and so on, right? And there are examples of IaaS providers like DigitalOcean, AWS, and Linode. So what are the advantages? So one advantage is, as we saw, it is cheaper, right? The cost, the monthly or the yearly cost for IaaS providers are significantly less than, buying a server upfront, right? And as we saw, no maintenance is required. However, it has its own disadvantages, right? So each IaaS provider like DigitalOcean, AWS, they have their own set of configurations, their OS, the memory, right? And we have to work with that and be aware of that and see if it is suitable for our application. And as we saw, the infrastructure is shared by others, right? You do not have exclusive access to a single server, right? And hence the performance might not be better than, let's say, running your own exclusive server. Now, another hosting option is the platform as a service provider, right? So what does the PaaS do? So in addition to the infrastructure, it provides the software layer as well, right, on which the web application can be deployed. So the PaaS automatically sets up the web server and database also for you, right? We have to provide some configuration options, right? Like which web server to be deployed, what is the database and all of that. And the PaaS helps us to deploy the application with minimal effort, right? So examples of PaaS providers are Heroku, Google App Engine, right? And now what is the advantage of using a PaaS? So one is that it is very easy to deploy, right? So if we have the code available, the PaaS will help us and take care of most of the setting up of the web server and the database servers and other things. Whereas the disadvantage is that you do not have much control over your application, right? You will not know what is the underlying operating system, what is the hardware, how is it configured, right? And hence you will not have much control over the underlying aspects of the system.